Hey there, and welcome to Connect the Dots Learning Center podcast. I'm Stephanie Wagers, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're a seasoned therapist, clinic owner, or just starting out, this podcast is your go-to spot for insights, tips, and stories that'll help you connect the dots in your practice. What if one of the most powerful tools in early development is something you never learned about in school? Today, we're diving into the clinical applications of baby wearing. Yes, baby wearing. With occupational therapist, mom, and certified baby wearing consultant, Jordan Morello, also known online as the Baby Wearing OT. After experiencing birth trauma and postpartum challenges firsthand, Jordan took her OT background and turned it into a thriving practice that now serves over 900 families, with most of her work done virtually. A single Instagram post earned over 5 million views, and she's now consulting with top baby carrier brands and helping therapists rethink how they approach the fourth trimester. In this episode, she breaks down how baby wearing supports torticollis, feeding, core development, reflux, and postpartum recovery. Plus, how therapists can start applying this tool in the clinic, even if they've never touched a wrap or a sling in their life. If you've ever wondered how to better support mom-baby dyads in those early months, or just curious about a growing niche within pediatrics, this is a conversation you don't want to miss. Welcome, Jordan Morello. I'm excited to talk to you today. You're a mom, an OT, and a baby wearing certified specialist or consultant that you consult online to people
Mhm.
all over the world. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep, I do in-person visits locally, but most of my business is virtual. Yes.
All right. Well, that's kind of a unique niche. So if
Yeah.
you could just kind of like take us back, how did you get where you are today?
Yeah. When I was pregnant with my son and leading up to his birth, I was a rehab director. And so I was doing that just like a traditional full-time clinical job. And then he was like, we had a very healthy pregnancy. He was full term, but we had a really bad birth. Things kind of went sideways, and he ended up in the NICU. And my job at the time did the standard 6 weeks unpaid leave. And I was like, okay, well, I have been, busting my butt working for you as your rehab director.
Yeah.
And now I have a baby who's in the NICU, and 6 weeks unpaid leave just isn't going to cut it. And so I ended up dropping down to PRN and was just doing PRN, like doing a 4-hour shift, coming home, hanging out with my baby, feeding my baby, going back to work, doing that kind of thing. And then around 4 months postpartum, I was in therapy for things like related to birth trauma and postpartum anxiety. And my therapist was like, you are OTing yourself. Like, you should be helping other people. She's like, I learn tips from you every time we talk that I go home and I give to other clients and things. And she's like, have you thought about like turning this into a business? And I
Mm.
was like, well, I'm not very happy working PRN. Like, I would love to have like more stability and, just kind of get back to that. And that's a great idea. And so I started an Instagram account just to kind of test the waters, to see like,
Yeah.
is maternal and infant health OT a thing? I know early intervention is a thing. I didn't know anyone who was working with like mothers and babies specifically, like as a dyad. And so I started the Instagram page, kind of tested the waters, made some connections with people who were already doing this, who were like,
Okay.
oh, I started my business 6 months ago. I started my business a year ago, but we were all just kind of trying to figure out like, what does maternal and infant health OT look like? And so I decided to jump in, got my PLLC license, like got all the insurance, got everything, and just opened like a concierge mobile home health service and started, mostly seeing friends as like beta clients at first when they had babies, and then they would refer me, and then became more and more successful with just kind of general postpartum recovery. And I loved baby wearing with my son. And as I was seeing more people, I was like, everyone could benefit from baby wearing. Like, this
Yeah.
is like something that clearly all of my clients could have this as like an activity modification or like a treatment for to help with breastfeeding, to help with postpartum anxiety. There were just so many applications. And so I was like, I know a little about baby wearing, I know a lot about the
Mm.
baby, I know a lot about the parents. And so I decided to go get certified. I went through the Center for Baby Wearing Studies, got certified. That training blew my mind. It was incredible. It was incredibly detailed, super immersive. And I loved it so much that I niched down into baby wearing, rebranded, popped out as the baby wearing OT, and things just took off. I think my first 6 months in business, I maybe had 25, 30 clients. And
Mhm.
now, like, so far in just 2025 alone, I'm about to hit like somewhere in the 900s. So, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So it's
Amazing.
been incredible. So, that's
That's
it kind of was
great.
just a wild ride. Like I rebranded and it just was clearly my place and my calling because it just
Yeah, isn't
took
it funny
off.
when things
So,
are meant to be, it's
yeah.
just like the path just kind of rolls out for you, and when it's not,
That's
there's
exactly
obstacles.
what it felt like. Yeah, it felt like I was
Yeah,
kind of fighting, like, I loved clinical OT, but I just wasn't feeling fulfilled anymore. And like
yeah.
found this, and it's just like it's work, obviously, but it doesn't feel like hard work. You know what I mean? Like I feel lucky to
Mhm.
be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So,
When you got your certification, had they
yeah.
ever had an OT go through that certification, or were you kind of new to them?
I didn't ask specifically. I know that they had launched some NICU programs where they've been
Mhm.
working with like nurses and PTs and OTs specifically in the NICU. And I know there's a baby wearing physiotherapist based in Australia. So I know there are
Okay.
some other people. I'm sure I wasn't the first, but I think I'm the first who like made it their entire practice model rather
Right.
than just using it to like supplement the rest of what they were
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
So,
Let's go back just for a second. So when you were
yeah.
working with mom and baby before you
Yeah.
kind of niche down, what kind of things were you doing?
Doing a lot of C-section recovery, a lot of like
Okay.
ergonomics and like home modification services, focusing on the baby. We were doing a lot of like lactation informed, positioning, breastfeeding support if baby had torticollis or plagiocephaly, any of those like early intervention type things, doing a lot of that, a lot of managing like body tension, if baby had hip dysplasia and wanted to do like kind of the conservative treatment if they didn't need the full bracing, things like that. So really just like
Okay.
honestly a lot of early intervention work and then just like kind of complementing it with making sure that the parent was supported as well in their recovery. So a lot of seeing people in kind of that fourth trimester. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. So you were able to
it's really
blend kind
cool.
of adult practice with pediatric
Yeah.
practice at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, when your business started to take off for baby wearing, kind of what were you thinking? What were your thoughts? Like this really can't work, or were you just tell me what was going through your head?
Um, I I knew it was gonna work because I was determined to make it work.
Okay.
But I was surprised at how successful it was. I think the piece that made me really be like, okay, this is like actually something like I'm not struggling to build a practice anymore. I've made it. This is like a sustainable thing, is when brands started reaching out to have me contract to do fit check services for their customers. So I
Mhm.
contract with like a variety of different baby carrier companies now, and they pay me, either some of them per fit check, some of them I have dedicated hours per week where I just do customer service based fit checks for that.
Okay.
And once I started getting those kind of contracts, that was like, okay, here's the stability piece that I needed. And now, even
Right.
if my private clients kind of go up and down, I have
Yeah.
guaranteed income. So
Yeah.
once I got there, I was like, okay, this is it. I did not expect it to happen after like a year of being in business. I thought I was going to have to work a lot harder for a lot longer. So I was surprised at how quickly it was successful, but I knew
Yeah.
just based on the response I got on social media and stuff, I knew it was going to be successful, but it happened a lot faster than I thought, for sure.
Okay. Was there one particular post that kind of like lit the way or
Yeah, so I think, let's see. When I started 2024, I had around 400 followers, and by the end of that year, I had about 10,000. So that year was
holy
kind of
cow.
growing, and people really liked my posts, like from an OT perspective. Like I would share things about like, here's the anatomy behind like what's going on when you have pelvic floor dysfunction and why you should use this kind of carrier. So people loved those posts. But then earlier this year, I had a post about baby wearing safety go viral. It got I think it's somewhere around 5 million views, and I gained
Wow.
20,000 followers in 2 weeks. And
Wow.
ever since that post, I mean, it has just been, I've gained 40,000 followers this year, and it's just been like one thing after another. I feel like that post is really the thing that didn't cement my business being successful, but cemented like a lot more doors opening for me and like a
Hmm.
lot more brand partnerships and like companies taking me seriously when I reach out to say like, hey, have you thought about like changing this part of your carrier and things like that. So I guess that post has probably been kind of the one that like
Yeah,
really made a big impact.
that's so cool. Well, as you know, I'm in pediatrics and
Yeah.
outpatient, and I'm kind of curious. We often get the kids when they're not in the carrier, but what are
Yeah.
some ways or conditions that, you would use a carrier for? So if you could
Yeah.
give some treatment applications, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a big one that I'm seeing like other OTs and PTs have a lot of success with is related to torticollis. For one thing, I'm noticing that once parents have an awareness of the fact that like torticollis is a condition and like what a head turn preference
Yeah.
is, I've had a lot of parents who caught the fact that their child had a head turn preference because they were in a baby carrier. And they were like, oh, I'm realizing they're always napping, looking left when they're on me in the carrier. Like, is that a problem? And then,
Hmm.
they like, I'm
Yeah.
like, what? you know but so a really great clinical application for that is for one like teaching parents. A lot of parents rely on like tucking baby's head into the side of a stretchy wrap for stability,
Mhm.
so I think knowing how to properly apply a stretchy wrap, because you shouldn't need to head tuck. A lot of people are supplementing
Okay.
core fit by like using the head tuck to stabilize baby's head and neck, but if you get a proper fit and a proper snugness elsewhere, the carrier can come up to the nape of the neck and baby will not have a floppy head. So I think
Hmm.
just being really aware of like helping parents to get a supportive fit so that they're not using the carrier like a container and kind of doing
Hmm.
those pinning the head to one side 24/7. But also you can use it once baby can tolerate it for like a prolonged, gentle, passive stretch on the non-preferred side when they're
Hmm.
asleep, especially. So I will tell parents, okay, they prefer to sleep looking left. Do not pin them looking to the left, but if you can, once they fall asleep, gently turn them and pin them looking right so that they spend that nap looking to the non-preferred side. That's a treatment application that's been really successful when coupled with all of the other like modalities and stretches and things that you do when baby's awake and you're working to build up tolerance and kind of lengthen the muscle and everything. So
Yeah.
that's a really easy one.
Yeah. And it would help with plagiocephaly too, right? So you're
Yes,
getting
yep,
weight off
yeah,
that head. Yeah.
yeah,
How about some
absolutely.
other ways that wearing can kind of help promote development?
Yeah, so another one that's really nice is if you have a baby who's not tolerating like free movement, traditional tummy time down on the floor, baby wearing can count as a modified form of tummy time. And so we would want to still be addressing the root cause and kind of figuring out why baby is not tolerating, being completely flat or being on a slight incline on the floor. But it's better than no tummy time at all. And we can teach parents, look, you can add in like purposeful vestibular input here. You can kind of
Mhm.
change the amount of proprioceptive input, the amount of support, the different positions and the views that you're carrying them in to allow them to like build muscle. Because when they're awake and they're upright in the carrier, if you have them properly positioned, they are working. They're engaging their core. They're able to lift their head. They're in different planes of gravity. So they can kind of use that as a way to start working on that stability and building those muscles where they might not get those benefits if the only option was just straight tummy time on the floor
Mhm.
or containers. So,
Right. Right. That makes a ton of sense. And
yeah.
sensory regulation, all of it is gonna
Yes.
benefit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great for digestion too. So if you have a
Okay.
baby who has reflux or is, struggling with that sort of thing, I tell parents that when you have your baby in a carrier, if you can go for a walk, that gentle bouncing motion after meals can actually help to like kind of simulate baby's stomach and sort of kickstart peristalsis through almost like
Hmm.
a similar to like a massage motion. So that's
Hmm.
a really nice one as well. It's just put them in a carrier and go for a walk right after feedings and kind of kickstart peristalsis.
Yeah. So many therapists might not be, I mean, they may know about baby wearing, but
Yeah.
not know how to bring it into the clinic. So where and also like what carrier to pick, where would they
Yeah.
start? Do you have videos? Do you have a
Mhm.
course? Where can they learn?
Yeah, I mean, I have tons of free resources on my
Okay.
Instagram page, and I have things organized by carrier type and also like
Okay.
specific subjects. Like I have like a newborns highlight, I have a dad's highlight, I have, things like that if you're looking
Yeah.
for like a specific population. And then I also have just highlights broken down by carrier type. So that's a really nice place for some free learning, just kind of to figure out like some of the basics, and just to get your brain working on like, oh, wow, I didn't realize this was a thing. I could use this here. And then if you're really interested in more in-depth learning, I do have a CEU course. It's available through the Lactation OT. It's a 4.5-hour course.
Okay.
And it's self-paced, asynchronous online learning. It does, qualify you for like continuing education credits
Mhm.
and everything. And it's all about baby wearing. We go through all the 6 types of like basic carriers. There's some case studies in there. We look at different clinical applications for like feeding. We go more in depth into torticollis and things like that. So that's a really nice resource too.
Yeah, awesome. Very nice. So are there any times you wouldn't want to, oh, excuse me, baby wear? I mean, sleeping probably,
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think there's a hard no unless the baby has some sort of precautions. Like
Mhm.
occasionally we see like sternal precautions, or, sometimes they're braced or splinted in a position where we would be putting weight in a contraindicated way if they were to sit in a carrier. So, I mean, obviously, if you have like a medically complex child, like watching out for that. And then the other one is if you're working with the parents and you have a parent who had like a very traumatic birth or had like a really
Mhm.
severe tear, or, maybe had like a complicated C-section. I think sometimes parents use baby wearing as like an excuse to get back to moving too quickly sometimes and like being overly
Mm.
productive,
Mhm.
and weight bearing more than they should. And so I think just being really mindful of the fact that it is a tool for like ADL and IADL,
Mhm.
participation, but also it is weight and it is strain and it is active. And so just being careful of that for parents who are, especially I see a lot of like, well, I have a toddler and now I have a newborn. And so I'm just like, we're gonna just go for like a 2-mile walk a day after I get home from the hospital while I baby wear this 8-pound child, and then I'm running after my toddler and I'm like, okay, but like also your body, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. What would you say some of the biggest misconceptions are of baby wearing?
Oh gosh. I mean, okay, concerns I hear from parents a lot is, will they walk if I wear them all the time?
Yeah.
Like, yes, they will walk. And like there's no
You're gonna pack them in the
research.
baby wearing to prom.
Yeah, there's no research that says it delays motor progression.
Okay.
So that's one I hear. Another one I hear a lot is like, am I going to spoil them or make a clingy
Mhm.
child? And it's like, no, actually, like independence starts with connection and a sense of confidence. And so if you give them like a place to be a safe place to work out of, they're actually probably going to be a more confident child that's more likely to go off on
Mhm.
adventures. Another one I hear is that it's not safe to sleep in the carrier. It's not safe to carry them on
Mhm.
your back. It's not safe to breastfeed. All of those like fear-based
Yeah.
um, things. And none of that is true. We need to be really mindful about proper use and safety and positioning, but they can sleep. You can feed them. They can be on your back. You cannot cause hip dysplasia just from poor carrier use. I hear that a lot. There is some thought that you can probably exacerbate the severity if your child was already like showing all of the risk factors and
Mhm.
already maybe had a mild to moderate case. You might worsen it if they're like in a narrow based carrier with their legs
Mhm.
dangling down, and their hip socket not able to properly deepen. But you can't cause it from scratch. Like if your child was never going to have hip dysplasia, you're not going to give them hip dysplasia just from using a carrier the wrong way.
Yeah.
So I think that's another one I hear a lot of parents be worried about.
Yeah. How about dads and baby wearing?
Oh
How does
yeah.
that go for you?
I mean, so dads always put their waistbands down too low because they don't have a natural waist. And so they have a really hard time figuring out, like,
Oh,
in
yeah.
relation to baby's size, like, how high should the waistband be to get baby high enough up on their body. But I'm seeing more and more dads baby wear. I think it's becoming more and more popular. Even this year, I've been joking. It's the year of the ring sling kings because I'm seeing all these dads that are like getting into like the ring slings, the wraps, like some of the like where traditionally I feel like a lot of dads were like, give me a buckle carrier. Now they're like, oh, that ring sling's like really nice and comfortable. I want to do that. And I'm like, great.
Yeah.
And I share all the benefits. Like a lot of times I think dads feel like, especially if they're not the ones feeding the child, that they're like, well, what do I do other than change diapers and hold a
Yeah.
crying child? And it's like, well, you can baby wear them for a nap, and then you can smell their cute little head. You can snuggle and bond and get the
Mhm.
oxytocin release. So I
Yeah.
definitely am seeing it become more popular with the dads. I'm glad for that. I think it's a
Yeah.
great benefit for, baby gets the same benefits, parents get the same benefits, whether it's mom or dad. So I think that's
Right.
really, really awesome.
Right. And is there a difference, like when should you wear them on your front versus your back, age-wise,
Yeah,
size-wise, like back-wise for the parent? How do you
yeah.
determine that?
Depends on the carrier you're going to use. There are some like a stretchy wrap where I would never advise a back carry because it's not
Mhm.
safe. Then there are a lot of your buckle carriers make the general recommendation that baby needs to be sitting or be about 6 months before you can do
Mhm.
a safe back carry, just because you can't get as snug of a fit on a smaller
Right.
baby. But there are options, like if you have a reason to back carry earlier. I had a mom who was, she did pottery for a living, and she's like, I can't
Mm.
throw pottery with my child on
Yeah.
my front. This is how I make a living. And so we got her a med-eye, which is a safe option for back carry before they can sit unassisted. And we got our child on her back at 3 months so she could go back to work, and she could wear her back there, and baby could sleep on her back while she worked and was able to
Mhm.
support herself. So, there are options like med-eyes and woven wraps that let you do an earlier back carry. And I would say the biggest thing there is to get customized support, because we don't, here in the States, we don't live in a culture where you grow up seeing how to do that safely. It's not intuitive. And so
Yeah, I'm
that's,
just trying to think of how I would get a
yeah,
3-month-old on my back. I remember putting my son in just the
yeah,
Bjorn front pack like 24 years
yeah.
ago.
You
Yeah.
basically make like a little Santa sack and just kind of like toss them up over your shoulder and then get the wrap. I know, and that feels really scary because we don't do it, but it's
Yeah.
actually super safe and super supportive when you know what you're doing. But so like that's an example of like when finding an in-person group or getting one-to-one support with someone who knows how to get them on there safely and can also like spot you,
Right.
is really powerful. So
Right. And when you're consulting, are you helping parents kind of problem solve that, watching them put it on and do
yeah,
that? Is
yeah.
that
So, it depends. I do kind of a variety. I have like a prenatal consultation service where I'm like kind of helping them registry build, and we're talking about like, okay, based on
Mhm.
your size, your support needs, where you live, your goals, your lifestyle, your ethical preferences, your budget, things like that. What carrier would be a good carrier, because it's not the
Oh,
same
wow.
carrier that your best friend loves, right? It's
Right.
like depends on the person. So I do a lot of that. And then postpartum, I do a lot of like fit check type services where they're like, have the carrier help. Like, what am I doing? And it's
Yeah,
a
how
lot
do I
more of
put
that
this
problem
on?
solving.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so, I have clients that sometimes I just see them once and then they're like good to go. Sometimes I see them in the newborn stage, then I see them again when baby's 3 to 4 months old, then I see them again around 6 months. Then maybe we talk about toddler carriers when they're like 15 to 18 months old, So I have
Mhm.
one client that every time she buys a new carrier, she just books a 15-minute appointment with me because she's like, I don't even want to read the instruction manual. I just want you to tell me how to do
Mhm.
it safely. So,
How many different carriers can you consult on?
ah, I mean, if it exists and there's good information about it online, I can consult on it even if I don't have it in my library. But in my library,
Yeah, I'm seeing them behind you.
yeah, you see ring slings behind me, and
Mhm.
then I probably have around 100 carriers in my library, like that I can physically touch and interact with.
Wow. And
So
what is a ring sling? What does that mean?
yeah, yeah. So a ring sling, these carriers back behind me on the wall. So a ring sling is just it's one long piece of fabric, and then it has a double set of rings sewn into like
Okay.
a fixed shoulder. And so what
Uh-huh.
you do is you position it so that the rings are sitting right below your collarbone and next to your
Okay.
armpit, and then the fabric goes around your back and makes like a little loop around your
Okay.
body. And so it's an asymmetrical single shoulder carry, and baby sits upright in the pocket of the fabric, either on your front or on your hip, or sometimes on your back. And it's really lovely for breastfeeding because
Mhm.
since it only goes over one shoulder, it's really easy to just like loosen and sort of drop them down and like nurse and then bring them back up.
Right.
Um, Very snugly for the newborn stage 2. Not so great when they're like 4 to 6 months old and they're seat popping and wiggling a bunch, because they
Yeah.
sometimes they can kick out the bottom of the carrier. But then great for toddlers when they're like, pick me up, put me down, pick me up, put me down. Cause like I can get a
You
ring
can just
sling.
set it on and off.
Yeah, I can do it in like 10 to 15 seconds probably from like
Okay.
application to full carry. So
Yeah.
they're fast when you know what you're doing. Yeah.
Gosh, I wish I had this when my kids were little. Now, is there much about side carrying or is it mainly front and back?
Yeah, yeah. You can do like a hip carry. The ring sling does a hip carry. You could do it in a woven wrap. You could do it in a med-eye. Some buckle carriers offer a hip carry. I find a lot of times parents don't find that as comfortable because it's just kind of bulky and sits
Mhm.
weird, tends to sit kind of creep up on the neck on the side that has the strap across the shoulder. But yeah, there are lots of great options for hip carries, and that can be a really nice alternative to like world facing. If the parent doesn't want to world face, if they don't find it supportive for their body, a hip carry can be a great alternative because it's just a little bit more ergonomic. So,
Okay.
but it still gives baby like a little bit more view and can let them be arms out and kind of twist and look around without being so overstimulating. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. What do you hope that other pediatric therapists will take out of your work?
um, I think, just for me, something that I have seen a lot is I think like certified baby wearing consultants aren't taken as seriously sometimes
Mm,
because there's not like you don't go to school for it per se, but
right.
these I say women, it's mostly women. We're starting to see more men. These like consultants are incredibly knowledgeable, and I think they're a really valuable part of a care team. If you
Mhm.
already have a kid who's like in therapy for like early intervention purposes or for breastfeeding or whatever it
Mhm.
is, like looping in a certified baby wearing consultant, if you are not feeling super, super sure about the full depth of carrying, is
Yeah.
really powerful. It's kind of the same as like looping in like a certified uh, safety passenger technician for like car seat stuff.
Mm,
So I think just being open to working with like doing interdisciplinary work with people who are maybe not, they didn't get like a degree in it, but
mhm.
they're, still an incredibly valuable part of the care team. And then I think the other piece is just being open to maybe some more like alternative type work. Cause I feel like sometimes people, they hear like baby wearing or like, lactation or craniosacral therapy, and they're like,
Mm,
woo woo. And I'm like,
right.
sure, I'm sure it's probably like crunchy or woo woo, if you will, but also it helps a lot of people. And,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of evidence base for it. I could point people in the direction of like tens of hundreds of articles that are being written and studied, especially in Europe, on like baby wearing and all of its benefits. So it can be an evidence-based practice. It's just not one that like I think OTs and PTs feel comfortable in a lot of times, and we should,
Yeah. Right.
you know.
Yeah. No, it's amazing that, I mean, you have the knowledge behind, the body and just
Yeah,
development, and then to pair it with knowing
right.
what the carriers can do
Exactly. I think the
is
gear is
huge.
the biggest learning curve for therapists, but it's no different than if you learn like wheelchairs. So, I mean,
Mhm.
you don't come out of school knowing everything there is to know about wheelchairs, but if
No.
that's something you're interested in, then you take continuing education and you learn, and then
Yeah.
it's a really beneficial part of your practice. So, same thing for the gear here. There's a lot out there, and every time I think, okay, well, there's all the carriers have been done,
Yeah.
there's no other design someone can come out with that's going to surprise me. Something pops up on the market that surprises me, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even think about that one. So
Hmm.
I think just knowing that it's like a very, very, there's a lot of knowledge to learn, and just to kind of being open to that. And if you don't want to do all of that for yourself, just like finding a local consultant and looping them in,
Yeah.
just being comfortable with like referring back and forth to each other, because certified baby wearing consultants are a great source of referrals for us as well,
Hmm.
because they'll get babies that they're like, this baby is super fussy in the carrier and I don't know why, and then they refer to you, and then you're like, wow, look at all that asymmetrical body tension, or like, wow, look at that oral tie that no one caught. So
Hmm.
it can be a great source of like mutual referral as well.
Yeah. What do you do when you see somebody in public and they've got the baby and it's just like it's a hot mess in the carrier? Is
Yeah.
it?
So, I mean, the good thing for me is I have credentials. So I usually lead with that. I go up and I'm like, hi, I'm Jordan. I'm a certified baby wearing consultant. Like, I noticed your baby wearing. I have a couple tips. Are you open? And usually when they hear that I'm not just like some random parent, quote unquote, judging them, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, okay. But I always start from a place of comfort because I feel like if you
Mhm.
walk in and you start shaking your finger and you're like, this is unsafe, your
Right.
baby, da 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 da, they shut down, they get defensive, they feel bad, like they're no
Mhm.
longer open to your advice. So I always start from like, I have a tip to like make those straps a little bit more comfortable. Are you open to that? And then if they're
Mm.
receptive to any kind of feedback, I start from a place of comfort. We get baby repositioned properly, we get the carrier fitted better, and then I will slip in safety information like, oh, see now, like you can see their head. That's really important because we want to be able to check on their well-being and keep their airway clear. And like, look here, now their hips are really nicely supported. This is really healthy for their so
Mhm.
I think it's just about approaching it from an angle of understanding that no one wants to be doing the quote unquote wrong thing for their baby.
Mhm.
No one wants to harm their child. No one is purposefully
Right.
wearing a carrier wrong, because they don't care or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think just being gentle and going at it, without throwing too much information at them at once is really,
Yeah.
really helpful. So
Yeah.
I've never had someone say no to me. I have
Okay.
lots of people who say like, I told someone that their carrier, it was wrong and they were mad and they didn't listen to me and they didn't fix it. I've never had that experience, but again, I think it's because I lead with credentials and I lead from a place of like
Yeah.
comfort first to even check
Mhm.
to see if they're receptive. I think if I
Mhm.
just came up and was like,
What are
you
you
can't even see their
doing?
head.
Yeah.
What are you doing? They're gonna suffocate. Like, I think, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think
No.
approach matters.
Yeah. Well, what's next for you? Do you have anything in the works, or are you just kind of happy with where
Yeah.
you are?
I so like the pipe dream, like 10 years from now, I guess, or whatever, I think I want to go back and get my PhD and kind of focus on like almost like a public health initiative for
Mm.
baby wearing the same way that there is for like safe sleep and,
Yeah.
car seat safety and things like that. I don't think that baby wearing necessarily needs to be um like formalized or standardized or institutionalized so much because I mean it is like an ancient practice and but here
Mm.
in the States we don't have that. So I think just some
Yeah.
sort of widespread, easy to follow guidance on like safety
Mhm.
and positioning would be really valuable for a lot of people. So that's kind of like long term, long term.
Yeah.
For the rest of this year, I have some cool conferences coming up. So maybe traveling and, spreading baby wearing geekery to different disciplines and just continuing to work with brands and pushing out more content on safety and education and hopefully just continuing to ramp up my practice. So
And people can find you on your Instagram page, which
yeah,
I'll link in the bio. And then
great.
you have a website as well.
I do, but honestly, Instagram's the best way to get in touch with me.
Instagram's the best way.
I'm like chronically online. So just
Okay.
just
If
send me a
someone had a
message.
question,
Yeah.
could they DM you a
Yeah,
question?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I try to set aside so I might not my account's busy enough at this point that I can't like guarantee like a quick response anymore, but I do
Mhm.
set aside a few hours a couple times a week and just comb through DMs and just try to
Mhm.
answer everything. And so, you might not hear from me within a couple hours, but you will hear
Yeah.
from me within about 48 hours or so,
Yeah.
typically.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. And you're doing all your own content and everything
yep,
still.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any
I
advice for
probably
people
need
on
to
that?
hire a virtual assistant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think social media is an incredibly powerful tool to generate leads. And if you are not on social media and you want to be offering any sort of like wider spread virtual service or parent coaching or something like that, like it's free lead generation. I've never paid for ads. I don't pay for any sort of marketing or anything like that. Like, yes, I spend time a couple times a week filming videos, but I mean, my business is probably 85% of my leads come straight from Instagram,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And so it's worth it. And I think just like finding something that makes you stand out. I feel like people don't always understand what OT or PT or speech
Mhm.
therapists do. And so like, baby wearing was a helpful niche for me because people are like, oh, like I don't know what a maternal health OT is, but I know
Right.
what baby wearing is. So okay,
Yeah.
like let's see what this girl's about. and just showing up as yourself. Like,
Mhm.
I have so many clients who are like, you are exactly as you are in your videos, and that made me comfortable. I felt like I already knew
Mhm.
you when we started our consultation. I felt like I knew that you were going to be helpful and kind and supportive, and that made me book, so
Mhm.
just showing up authentically and, making it a mix of like educational, fun, let them see your personality, but also like be professional. And, I have had multiple gigs and brand partnerships that happened because I criticized brands online, but I did it in
Mm.
such a way that it was a very professional, like, objective delivery, and it turned into partnerships because then
Wow.
they're emailing me going, "Oh, we saw, like, your video and your concerns, like, would you wanna help us?"
Yeah.
Versus if I had just been, like, bashing them and,
Right.
throwing them under the bus, they probably would have just ignored or blocked me.
I
So I
wish more
think
people
just,
would do
like
that.
yeah. I think, the way you show up on socials can be so powerful and open so
Yeah.
many doors. And I'm not someone who ever thought that I would be like a quote unquote like health influencer or whatever. I never thought I would be comfortable filming. I never thought that I would be making videos every day and having, millions of views every month. That was never something that was in my plan ever, but it's been incredible and it's actually been
Yeah.
really fun and I like making
Yeah.
content. So, you know, I think
That's
it can
awesome.
be really, really powerful.
Yeah, great advice. I love that. Well, it's so great to talk with you today. I mean, I got a bunch of ideas and we need to, for our own clinic, kind of find somebody local and now we have
Yeah.
you in our back pocket to reach out to
Yeah.
too. But yeah, it's incredible. And I think I listened to on another podcast where you're talking about even carrying larger children with a
Hmm.
disability, that
Yep.
there's carriers for everything. And I think
Yeah.
just when we open our mind to that, it
Yeah.
opens possibilities. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Jordan.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.